The village of Zola rested quietly in a valley, surrounded by towering trees and a dense, verdant forest. It was a place untouched by the chaos of the outside world, where nature and tradition coexisted in perfect harmony. The air was thick with the earthy scent of the forest, and the soft chirping of birds filled the atmosphere. The people of Zola lived a simple, peaceful life, bound by the sacred traditions that had been passed down through generations. Among the many customs of Zola, one stood out above all others: the purity of its girls. It was considered the highest honor for a girl to maintain her virginity until marriage, for it symbolized the strength of her character and the respect she held for her family and village. The elders often spoke of the importance of this purity, reminding the girls that their lives were not just about personal desires, but about the greater good of their community. To be pure was to be revered, and parents took great pride in the fact that their daughters upheld this sacred value. The chief, a wise man named Oba, guided the village with fairness and wisdom, ensuring that the customs of the land were upheld. His family, too, was held in great esteem, with his daughters known for their beauty and grace. It was said that the chief's family was the embodiment of Zola's values, and everyone looked to them for guidance and inspiration. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the village, the people gathered for their evening rituals. The elders led the prayers, asking for blessings from the gods, and the villagers responded in unison, their voices rising in harmony with the breeze. As the village gathered at the ceremonial grounds in the center of the village, an open space near the great oak tree where the elders had always conducted important rituals. It was here that the people of Zola connected with the gods, and it was here that the test of purity would begin. At the heart of the ceremony stood a large, ancient pot placed on a pedestal, made of smooth stones worn by centuries of use. The pot, deep and blackened by the fires of many past rituals, was now a symbol of the gods' judgment. In it lay a precious object, a necklace, beautifully crafted with intricate gold and beads, said to be blessed by the gods themselves. It was a symbol of purity, a reward for the true virgin who would be chosen to carry out the sacred sacrifice. The villagers stood in a circle around the pot, their faces solemn and expectant. The ceremony had begun, and the air was thick with tension. It was said that only a girl who had kept her purity could touch the necklace and pull it out of the pot. The test would determine which of the young girls was worthy to perform the sacrifice that would restore balance to the village, for the curse that had descended upon Zola would only be lifted by the sacrifice of a true virgin. Elder Okolo, a man of great age with a long white beard and deep-set eyes, stood at the front of the gathering, overseeing the ceremony. He was known for his wisdom and his deep connection with the gods, and today his role was more important than ever. His voice carried through the crowd as he spoke the sacred words, explaining the test. "Let this test show us the truth of our daughters. Only the purest among them can fulfill the task that lies before us. May the gods guide us." The first girl stepped forward. Her body trembled as she reached her hand into the pot, her fingers brushing the surface. The crowd held their breath, but when she pulled her hand out, there was nothing there. A soft gasp rippled through the villagers. She stepped back, her face flushed with embarrassment. One by one, the other girls took their turns, reaching into the pot with shaking hands, only to come up empty. The tension in the air grew heavier with each failed attempt. Whispers began to spread through the crowd as the girls, each of them beloved by their families, returned to their places, their eyes filled with confusion and shame. No one understood. How could it be that none of these young women, daughters of Zola's most respected families, could prove their purity? Then it was the turn of the chief's daughters. The eldest, Amina, was known for her grace and beauty. She stepped forward, her heart racing, but there was no turning back. She reached into the pot with delicate hands, and for a moment the crowd fell silent, watching her every move. But as she pulled her hand out once again, the necklace was not there. The village held its collective breath, stunned by the failure. Next, the second daughter, Juma, stepped forward. She reached into the pot, her fingers brushing the rim, but when she withdrew her hand, the necklace was not in her grasp. The villagers exchanged worried glances, murmuring among themselves. This was impossible. The crowd fell silent, disbelief in their eyes. At that moment, the atmosphere shifted. The elders exchanged worried glances, their faces pale with the realization that none of the village girls had passed the test. The tension in the air was thick, and the villagers began to whisper among themselves, their words filled with confusion and fear. It was then that a voice called out from the back of the crowd. Amina, the daughter of the chief, had stepped back and was now looking nervously at the other girls. "What is happening?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "We have failed the test. How could this be?" The failed test hung heavily over the village like a dark cloud. The people of Zola were perplexed and uneasy, unsure of how to proceed, their hopes dashed in an instant. The village square, usually full of laughter and chatter, now stood still, the whispers of the crowd rising and falling like the waves of an unsettled ocean. It was then that the air shifted again, this time not with tension but with curiosity. As the days passed, Amina had secretly begun to meet with these men, receiving gifts and money in exchange for her time, her presence. She had traded her companionship for luxuries, and the men were eager to please her. What the villagers didn't know was that Amina had turned these interactions into a form of power, one that she wielded effortlessly. Juma, too, had begun to notice. One afternoon, she had quietly followed Amina after seeing her speak with the village merchant. She had watched as Amina exchanged her company for a beautiful necklace, gold and beaded, just like the one that had been sought after in the ceremony. The necklace had caught Juma's eye, and her curiosity had driven her to follow. Juma could feel the stirrings of a desire deep within her, a desire for power, for control, for the freedom that Amina seemed to possess. And she wasn't the only one. The other girls of the village began to look at Amina with the same hunger, the same yearning for the attention and riches she had. That night, after the village had settled into its usual quiet, Juma found herself wandering through the narrow alleys, her footsteps soft on the earth. She had decided that tonight would be the night she would step into Amina's world. Her heart raced as she approached the merchant's stall, the place where she had seen Amina exchange her company for gifts. The merchant, a young man with dark eyes and an eager expression, was closing his stall for the night. Juma approached him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Excuse me," Juma said, her voice soft but steady. The merchant looked up, surprised, but his expression softened as he recognized her. "You're the chief's daughter," he said, his voice full of reverence. "How may I help you, Lady Juma?" Juma's eyes gleamed with determination. "I've heard of your arrangements with Amina," she said, her voice low, "and I want to try it too." The merchant blinked, his gaze flickering between the beautiful young woman standing before him and the whispering night around them. The merchant was taken aback, but the sight of Juma's confidence, much like Amina's, stirred something inside him. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the way she carried herself, the aura of power she was beginning to exude. "I can offer you things," he said cautiously, "but you must understand, it comes with a price. Amina, she does not offer just her presence, but her time, her company." Juma's expression hardened, her desire unwavering. "I know what she does. I want to do it too. I want the gifts, the attention. I want to be like Amina." The words left her mouth before she could even fully process their meaning, but it was too late now. The decision had been made. The merchant hesitated for a moment longer, but seeing the intensity in Juma's eyes, he finally relented. "Very well," he said, his voice lower now. "We can meet tomorrow night. I will bring the gifts, and you'll have what you seek." As Juma walked away, her heart thundered in her chest. She had taken the first step toward a world she never imagined she would enter. The power of Amina's influence had worked its magic on her, and now Juma was a part of that world. One afternoon, as the sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over Zola, a group of girls met secretly near the village's edge. Among them was Amina, dressed in her usual bold attire, her deep brown skin glowing under the sun's rays. She was a symbol of rebellion, standing tall with an air of confidence that was both infectious and dangerous. The other girls, dressed similarly in colourful, revealing clothes, gathered around her, their eyes filled with excitement and admiration. "See how easy it is," Amina said, her voice smooth and persuasive. "All you have to do is meet the right man and the world will open up to you. You'll have everything you've ever dreamed of. No rules, no restrictions, just power." She smiled, her lips curving into a knowing grin. The girls around her hung on every word. "Is it really that simple?" Juma asked, her voice tinged with both doubt and longing. She had already met with a few merchants, and the gifts had come pouring in, but now she wanted more. The attention, the admiration, it was intoxicating. But there was still a part of her that wondered if this was the right path. Amina's gaze softened, and she took a step closer to Juma. "Of course it's simple. You just have to shed the old ways. Stop listening to the village elders. Stop worrying about what your parents think. If you want to live freely, you must embrace the truth. The world is yours for the taking." Amina's words were like a spell, weaving through the girls like an enchantment. They nodded, their faces filled with a mixture of awe and anticipation. By the time they left the secluded spot, the transformation of the girls in Zola was complete. The village had been forever altered. What had once been a place of unity and respect for tradition was now a community divided, with secrets lurking in the shadows. The elders and parents, oblivious to what was happening in the hearts of their daughters, continued to go about their daily lives, unaware of the shifting tide. The girls, however, had already crossed a threshold, and there was no going back. The vibrant energy of Zola began to unravel in a way no one could have anticipated. At the center of the village square stood the oracle Baba, an ancient elder known for his ability to communicate with the gods. His eyes, though clouded with age, still carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. As the villagers gathered around, their faces filled with concern and fear, Baba began his ritual. He chanted quietly, his voice ancient and powerful, summoning the gods to speak through him. He closed his eyes, entering a deep trance, and soon the air grew thick with an eerie silence. In his vision, the gods spoke to him, their voices like the rustling of leaves in a windless night. Baba's face twisted with pain as he listened to their message. When he finally opened his eyes, the villagers leaned in, eager for the truth. "The gods are angry," Baba said, his voice trembling. "The purity of this village has been lost. The women, the daughters of Zola, have abandoned the sacred laws. The gods demand that 2 virgins carry out a sacrifice to restore the balance. Only by fulfilling this sacred duty can we lift the curse." The villagers gasped in disbelief. How could this be? The sacred traditions that had been the bedrock of their community were now the very thing that had brought their suffering. And yet, as Baba spoke, it was clear the curse would not be lifted unless the sacrifice was made.